The envelope landed on my desk late Wednesday morning, thick, glossy black cardstock with silver foil lettering that caught the light like a knife's edge. It was dramatic even for them. Across the center in regal script, it read, "The annual Westbrook family reunion, hosted in San Francisco." I held it for a long moment, my fingertips grazing the raised letters, while memories I'd worked hard to bury began to bubble to the surface. Tight-lipped smiles, passive-aggressive digs, sideways glances at my career choices. The kind of family love that left bruises without ever raising a hand. My full name is Lauren Westbrook, but in every boardroom contract and press release, I go by Lauren Blake. 15 years ago, the name Westbrook meant something different to me, something heavy. I was the family disappointment, the creative one who declined the gilded cage of Westbrook Capital to study hotel management up in Portland, the one who traded power lunches for service trays, the dreamer with a resume that didn't measure up to trust funds and legacy admissions. Just then my phone buzzed. A name flashed across the screen, Brittany Caldwell, my cousin and personal PR nightmare. I hesitated for a beat, then picked up. "Lauren," she trilled like we were best friends. "Hope you got the invitation." "I did," I said, keeping my voice even. Well, she continued in that cloyingly polished tone of hers. "This year's going to be very elegant. We pulled out all the stops. The Celestia Resort is incredibly exclusive. I figured you'd understand." I glanced out the window of my penthouse office in downtown Los Angeles, the skyline glittering like a kingdom I built with my own hands. The Celestia, my first five-star property, the cornerstone of Blake Hospitality Group, was currently the most talked-about resort in California. Only Brittany didn't know that. "Are you saying I might not belong there, Brittany?" I asked, my voice edged with amusement. "Oh no, don't be so sensitive," she said, overly sweet like sugar hiding the taste of poison. "It's just, we've got influencers, tech founders, even a senator or two attending. You know how appearances can be." Appearances. She meant me. She didn't want her high-powered friends to discover that her cousin once wore a name tag and handed out room keys. "And who picked the venue?" I asked, feigning casual interest. "I did," she said, practically preening through the phone. "Dad says I've got an eye for luxury spaces. The Celestia is the hot spot right now. I had to call in major favors to get it." I nearly laughed. That favor had come through my company's elite booking portal, and I had personally approved it at 40% above our highest premium tier. "That must have been difficult," I said smoothly. "Well, not everyone has my kind of pull," she gloated. "The owner, M. Blake, is notoriously private, but their team was incredibly accommodating once they heard the Westbrook name." Of course they were. I told them to roll out the red carpet. "Anyway," she went on, "I'm sure you understand. Maybe next year if you've upgraded from that boutique little motel in Silver Lake." I bit back a grin. That motel was where it all began. "Sure, Brittany. Maybe next year," I said, my voice cool. The property she mocked was the Blue Lantern, my first boutique hotel, more laboratory than lodging. It was where I tested everything: smart key integrations, aromatherapy, circulation systems, sleep cycle lighting. It wasn't just a business, it was a revolution in hospitality. But the Westbrooks had stopped paying attention to me the moment I didn't follow the script. Something like that, I added, then ended the call. I leaned back in my chair, a sleek black leather piece that cost more than Brittany's entire vacation wardrobe. Through the triple-pane windows, the city murmured below. My thoughts drifted to 15 years earlier when I graduated from the University of Oregon with nothing but a diploma, a duffel bag, and a fire in my chest. "You're going to be a maid," my father, Richard Westbrook, had thundered. "No daughter of mine wears a uniform with her name stitched on the chest." But I had. I'd scrubbed toilets, folded towels, hauled luggage, soothed irate guests, trained night staff. I didn't want to run hotels, I wanted to reinvent them, and I knew I had to start at the ground level to get there. By the time I turned 26, I'd opened the Blue Lantern. It sold out every weekend. Today, at 34, I own 21 five-star resorts, spanning 5 countries. And the Celestia, the very site of our family reunion, is my crown jewel. A harmonious blend of coastal Californian design and sustainability technology, twice named Luxury Resort of the Year. And yet somehow I was still too poor to be included in the Westbrooks elite get-together. Another buzz, a text this time from Tyler Grant, my right-hand man and executive assistant. "Reunion contract needs your signature. Want me to bring it up?" I typed back with a grin. "No need. I've got a better idea." I pulled up the event contract and began revising the details myself. They might have excluded me from the guest list, but every decision about that night would run through me. Lighting music, the chef's signature tasting menu, even the subtle ocean breeze scent that would drift through the air vents. I wasn't just going to attend, I was going to host silently, spectacularly. As I worked, old slights resurfaced. Getting seated at the kids' table well into my 20s. Being accidentally placed near the valet crew at Brittany's wedding. She'd said I'd feel more comfortable there. I'd already owned 9 hotels by then. They'd never asked, never noticed. Only my younger sister Jenna had stayed in contact. She never knew just how far I'd come. As if on cue, she called. "Lauren," she said gently, "Sarah told me Brittany asked you not to come. I'm really sorry." "Don't be," I said, smiling as I signed the last contract page. "Actually, can you do me a favor?" "Sure," she said. "Make sure everyone arrives at exactly 7:00 p.m. Why, what's going on?" I looked out the window, imagining the marble floors, the chandeliers, the quiet unfolding of my plan. Let's just say I murmured Brittany's not the only one with connections at the Celestia. The 2 weeks that followed were a flurry of coordination. From the exact hue of the floral centerpieces to the ambient lighting programmed to shift with the sunset, I had a hand in every detail. If they thought they could leave me off the guest list, they were about to learn exactly what happens when the black sheep owns the whole barn. The Westbrooks prided themselves on luxury white glove everything, no expense spared, elegance dripped in designer labels and carefully curated appearances. But what they were about to experience was more than luxury. It was art precision theater. And I was going to give them a show they'd never forget. The night before the reunion, I stood near the grand entrance of the Celestia, just off to the side where I wouldn't be in anyone's path. The marble lobby gleamed under the warm halo of crystal chandeliers, each piece imported from Italy and hand-fitted into its socket. My staff moved through the space with quiet efficiency, polishing the marble until it gleamed like still water. You could see your future in those reflections. The room itself was a blend of natural coastal tones and sleek opulence. White stone columns rose like sentinels toward a coffered ceiling, accented with soft gold trim. Sea glass inlays sparkled subtly along the floorboarders, catching the light like jewels. The scent of white tea and driftwood floated through the air vents, intentional, soothing branded. Tyler Grant, my assistant, stepped up beside me, holding a sleek tablet. "All arrangements confirmed," he said, his voice calm professional. "New signage will unveil exactly at 7:15 p.m. tomorrow." I nodded. Perfect. He paused, looking at me a little more closely. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" I didn't blink. My mind replayed Brittany's smirking voice from that phone call. The snubs, the laughter, the condescension wrapped in concern. "Absolutely," I said. "It's not every day you get to welcome your entire family to a resort they told you you'd never belong in." I smiled, my imagination already filling with the stunned expressions, the wide eyes, the silence. Tomorrow would be one for the books. At 6:45 p.m. sharp the following evening, I stood in my private penthouse suite at the very top of the Celestia. From the wraparound windows, I could see the city glitter below, but my attention was locked on the surveillance feeds displayed across my monitor wall. The arrivals had begun right on time. The parade was predictable. Designer heels clicked across the stone entrance handbags, dangled from perfectly manicured hands, and flashes from smartphone cameras lit up like paparazzi swarms. Rolexes glinted beneath jacket cuffs, everyone dressed to be seen as if the reunion were a red carpet event. Then came Brittany in a bold red Valentino dress that practically screamed "Notice me," barking directions at hotel staff like she ran the place. She stopped to pose by the massive floral centerpiece hand-selected by me and inspected it like a critic. My father's black Bentley was next, regal and theatrical. Behind him trailed a procession of Mercedes Escalades and Teslas, each vehicle carrying a different branch of the Westbrook tree, uncles, aunts, cousins, all dolled up and posturing for each other like it was a Fortune 500 mixer. "Everything's prepped," Tyler said from beside me, checking his screen. "Staff knows their cues." "Do we need security standing by?" he asked. I shook my head, my slate gray Armani suit fitting perfectly around my shoulders. No need. The Westbrooks wouldn't dare tarnish their own illusion of class. I straightened the lapels, smoothing an invisible crease. Let them get comfortable. This is going to be fun. Downstairs, the grand ballroom was buzzing champagne, flowing freely, laughter echoing off the high ceilings. Brittany held court near the indoor fountain, gushing about her efforts in securing the venue. My father was locked in conversation with old business associates, likely swapping investment strategies. My cousins posed in front of the Celestia logo, smugly proud of the backdrop they assumed added clout to their Instagram feeds. At 7:10 p.m., right on cue, the hotel's event manager, a sharp, composed woman named Layla, approached Brittany. Miss Caldwell, she said politely, I'm afraid there's been a small issue with the reservation. Brittany's smile tightened, clearly annoyed. Excuse me, I arranged this personally with your corporate office. Yes, ma'am, Layla responded without missing a beat. The owner requested a few last-minute instructions for the evening. Brittany waved her hand in dismissal. Please, I highly doubt Monsieur Blake has time to get involved in details like that. She barely finished the sentence before a hush rippled across the room like a dropped curtain. I stepped forward from the rear entrance, each footfall deliberate across the marble floor. Heads turned, conversations stopped, champagne flutes paused mid-air. Actually, I said smoothly, Monsieur Blake takes a very personal interest in these kinds of details. It was as if oxygen had vanished. Every head swiveled to face me, the cousin no one thought to include the former embarrassment they thought they'd successfully hidden away. I stood tall, my tailored suit immaculate, my presence undeniable. My father's voice pierced the silence. Lauren, he said, squinting as if seeing a ghost. What are you doing here? Brittany snapped, you weren't invited. No, I agreed, calmly stepping closer. You told me I couldn't afford to attend, that I'd make the family look bad. Brittany's face drained of color. This is a private event. I'll have you escorted out. I raised an eyebrow. No, you won't. At that exact moment, Tyler, standing discreetly near the AV controls, tapped a button on his tablet. The ballroom's enormous LED screen flared to life. First, the Celestia Resorts logo filled the screen. Then, bold letters appeared beneath it. Owned and operated by Lauren Westbrook Blake, founder and CEO, Blake Hospitality Group. The gasp was audible. A fork clattered onto a plate near the fountain. Brittany's champagne flute slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble. That's not possible, she stammered. I tilted my head, reaching into my coat pocket. Would you like to see my business card? I offered, sweetly, pulling out a sleek black case. Or maybe the deed to the property. I gave the leather portfolio under my arm a gentle pat. My father stepped toward me, eyes wide, his voice low. You own this place? And 20 others. I nodded slowly. Yes, though this one's special. It's where I began back when you said I was throwing my life away cleaning hotel rooms. I let the silence linger, soaking in the stunned faces around me. Brittany sneering at my old uniforms. Aunts whispering that I'd settled. Cousins editing me out of family pictures. You looked down on me, I said clearly, but you never once looked up. I turned to Brittany. That little motel in Silver Lake you mocked, that was my test lab. The foundation for what's now considered the gold standard in luxury hospitality. Tyler stepped forward, handing elegant navy folders to several family members. These contain the full story behind Blake Hospitality Group, he said, and the invoice for tonight's event. Brittany fumbled with hers, her hands shaking. Her eyes widened as she scanned the charges. This is 40% above market, she said, breathless. I smiled. A family surcharge? Custom billing? From the back of the room, Jenna burst into laughter. A few others followed nervously at first, then bolder as the tension finally cracked. My father stared at me, his expression unreadable. Why didn't you ever tell us? I met his eyes. Would you have listened? He said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence said everything. 15 years ago, you said no daughter of yours would ever work in a hotel, I said. And you were right. I paused, letting the moment breathe. I don't work in hotels, I said. I own them. At that, every screen in the ballroom lit up again, this time with panoramic video displays, turquoise waters surrounding our Maldives villas, snowflakes falling outside the windows of our Swiss Alpine retreat. The mirrored skyline reflected off our glass tower in Dubai. As for tonight, I added, your reservation hasn't been canceled. You're welcome to stay. In fact, I've arranged a guided tour of the property. I think it's time you all saw what a real career in customer service looks like. Brittany stepped forward, voice brittle. Lauren, we never meant. I held up a hand. Yes, you did. Every joke. Every time you cropped me out of a group photo. Every time you looked right through me or seated me near the staff table like I was hired help instead of blood. I let my eyes sweep slowly across the ballroom, catching glimpses of confused faces. Half-drunk glasses paused, mid-air postures stiffened with realization. My voice lifted slightly, but my tone stayed calm, steady. While you were busy defending your status, I was busy building a legacy. There was a hush followed by a ripple of tension that pulsed through the crowd. No one knew where to look. Welcome to the Celestia. There was movement now, guests shifting uncomfortably, exchanging murmurs behind manicured hands. But I wasn't done. My team will now escort each of you to your upgraded suites, I announced with polite formality. Though Brittany, I turned toward her slightly, watching her face pale. Your room had to be reassigned last minute. A high-profile client required your suite, so we've placed you in one of our standard queen rooms. Her smile froze, cracking beneath the surface. Her skin flushed crimson, her jaw clenched so tight I could hear it over the ambient lounge music. That room, the one she once mocked me for cleaning, was now hers, just for tonight. As the staff began guiding the family toward the elevators, some followed in awkward silence. Others whispered nervously behind their hands, stealing glances at me like they were only now seeing the real shape of my silhouette. But one person didn't move. My father, Richard Westbrook, stood still near the entrance to the ballroom, his hands loosely clasped in front of him, his gaze locked on me. I was wrong, he said barely above a whisper, his voice stripped of its usual authority, now uncertain, almost fragile. I studied him for a moment. The man who once told me I was wasting my life now looked like someone unmoored, unsure where to step. Yes, I said softly, but do you want to know the best part of owning 21 hotels? He raised an eyebrow, curiosity tempered with guilt. I have 21 presidential suites, I said. You can pick anyone you like to stay in, maybe while you figure out how to make things right. A flicker of something passed over his face. Was it respect, regret, relief? A small smile tugged at his lips. Where'd you learn to negotiate like that? I didn't hesitate. Same place I learned leadership. At the bottom, where no one else in this family ever dared to start. That night, after the guided tours had ended, after whispered apologies and reevaluated conversations had been shared in quiet corners, I returned to my suite. The penthouse lights were dimmed low, casting golden reflections on the walls. Outside, San Francisco shimmered beneath a navy sky. Tyler stepped in, holding a folder in one hand, his usual cool expression tinged with satisfaction. Final numbers from tonight, he said. Your family seems humbled. I chuckled, shaking my head. It's amazing what a little humility in a room without a view can do. He hesitated. Are you going to tell them about Paris, Tokyo? I looked toward my desk where the next round of contracts sat, waiting the paperwork for our 2 newest properties' international expansions. No one in that ballroom even knew existed. Not yet, I said, grinning. Let's save something for the next family reunion. As I stepped closer to the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights below flickered like stars that had come to rest just for me. Every hotelier knows one simple truth: repeat guests are the best kind. I leaned against the glass, the city a breathtaking tapestry outside. My reflection stared back at me, framed by the very skyline I used to only see from the outside, often while sweeping hotel lobbies or folding fresh towels in storage rooms that smelled of lavender and chlorine. From baseboards to boardrooms, from rejection to reinvention, that journey had carved something out of me, not just success, but clarity. Because the truth, this was never about revenge. It was never about proving the Westbrooks wrong. It was about proving myself right. And in that moment, I realized revenge doesn't have to be cold. Sometimes it's warm. It's breakfast in bed on a rooftop patio. It's a suite with panoramic views. It's power delivered with grace and zero bitterness. My phone buzzed. A message from Brittany. Can we talk tomorrow, please? I smiled as I typed back. Of course, your breakfast reservation is at 9:00 a.m. And then I added, just for myself, I own that restaurant too. There's something quietly powerful about being seen not just for what you've accomplished, but for who you are beneath it all. Not the help, not the black sheep, not the one they left off the guest list, but Lauren Blake, the woman who didn't need an invitation because she was already the host. As I turned back to my suite and caught the glow of the Celestia's name shimmering across the stone wall of the adjacent tower, I felt it in my chest, a deep, anchoring calm. Tomorrow would bring a new day, a new chapter in the story of the Westbrook family, yes. But this chapter wouldn't be about inheritance or pretense. It would be about something earned. Because at the end of the day, a hotel isn't just about giving people a place to sleep. It's about giving them something unforgettable. And tonight they would remember. If you've made it this far, thank you for walking this journey with me. I'd love to hear what you would have done in my place. Drop a comment, I read everyone. And if this story sparked something in you, even just a little, give it a like. It helps more than you know. And if you want to see what comes next, hit subscribe. There's so much more ahead.